So what are the exact questions that we are hoping to answer from the data we get from these wearable devices?
So what we're trying to capture, so all movements that people do are possible to summarize in terms of how frequently they're doing them, how hard those activities have been for them, and how long they perform those activities for. So those are things we're interested in. But because an accelerometer gives us a timestamp for every movement, it allows us to understand where in the day these activities are taking place, but also how they're dispersed over the course of a day or over the course of a week. So that loosely tells us something about the pattern of people's physical activity. And because the data is recorded at such high resolution, we can capture movements that are very short. And if you think about anybody's typical day, most of the movement they do in a day is actually accumulated in very short everyday movements, getting up to answer the phone, standing up, cooking, moving back to the table, going to the toilet. All of those small incremental things that we do during the day, they actually make up the majority of our movements. And a high resolution research grade accelerometer can tell us where all those movements are occurring over the course of a day. Now, historically, we've relied on asking people what they do and getting them to recall their activities in a form of a questionnaire normally, or sometimes as part of an interview. And all those small movements that make up the large amount of our activity are almost impossible to recall accurately. You know, if we were to ask someone, you know, over the last few days, how many times have you done small step-in movements that have lasted 2 or 3 seconds? It would be impossible to actually recall accurately. Not because people are being devious, it's just too difficult to do. And the beauty of research grade devices is it allows us to get a complete picture of everything that someone's doing in a 24-hour cycle. So not only can we capture the movements that people do, we can capture their sleep patterns as well. And so what we're trying to do in advance is understand these 24-hour cycles of wake time movements and nighttime sleep patterns, and see how they're related to future health outcomes with a high level of precision as we can. But as I said as well, what we're also interested in is the pattern of how you accumulate these movements. So for example, one person might do 300 minutes of activity all in one go. Another person might also get 300 minutes of activity in the same day, but they might accumulate theirs in 300 separate 1-minute movement patterns. Now, what's interesting is, and what we don't really know the answer to, is are they differentially related to a health outcome? Or does it not matter how you get your 300 minutes, for example? But the research grade data with timestamps for every movement allows us to say whether it's better, worse, or doesn't matter how you accumulate the same volume of physical activity.